Hello, am I audible? Good morning, dear participants. Within 2-3 minutes, we'll start it. Our honorable resource person has joined. Within 2-3 minutes, we'll start the program. And there is announcements to all the participants. We will share the feedback form on Zoom link and YouTube link. We will not share the feedback form on WhatsApp group or yes, sir. Sir, sharing the. Good morning, sir. Sir, there is one request. We will share the PPT after the introductions. Sir, am I audible?
Just wait for some time. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Sir, good morning, sir. Sir, am I audible?
Audible. You're audible.
Sir, yes, you are audible. Sir, we will do one thing. We will share the screen after the introductions. Your screen, your PPT.
Fine.
Huh? Because late first
Yeah,
introductions. Sir, good morning, all respected resource person of today's webinar and dear participants. With the permissions of the today's honorable guest, Shri Harold Costa, sir. Sir, may I start the session with your permissions?
Yeah. Please.
Anushka, may I ask the Anushka, please kindly proceed further. Anushka, over to you.
Good morning. Good morning to one and all present here. Sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Mic system is not proper.
Good morning to one and all present here. I, Anushka Jayant Pandey, studying in BA LLB second year, Manikchand Pahade Law College, welcome you all in the national webinar on emerging trends in cyber crimes, organized by Manikchand Pahade Law College and District Legal Services Authority, Aurangabad, in collaboration with Advanced Center on Research, Development and Training in Cyber Laws and Forensics, National Law School, India University, Bangalore, on the topic collection of electronic evidence during investigation. I welcome the principal of Manikchand Pahade Law College, Dr. C.M. Rao sir. Also, I welcome our resource person for today's webinar, Dr. Harold D. Costa sir, organizing committee, and all the attendees. Now I request Professor Abhay Jadhav sir to give a welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anushka. Very warm good morning to one and all present over here. I, on behalf of our MLNG Society, Manikchand Pahade Law College, Aurangabad, District Legal Services Authority, Aurangabad, and Advanced Center on Research, Development and Training in Cyber Laws and Forensic, NLSIU, Bangalore, warmly welcome and heartily welcome today's resource person, Dr. Harold DeCosta, who is President of Cyber Security Corporation. I also heartily and warmly welcome our beloved principal, Dr. C.M. Rao sir, Vice Principal, Mr. Sri Kishan More sir, and all my dear respected colleagues and attendees. We have come to the third day of our this 1 week webinar on emerging trends in cyber crimes. Since last 3 days, we are discussing various trends which have come under this cyber security, cyber threats. Today we have with us Honorable Dr. Harold DeCosta sir, who will be guiding and sharing his valuable and practical experiences in respect of what we call in today's era as a modern trends of crime, that is cyber crime. And more particularly, he will be dealing and he will be guiding us on the topic of how to collect electronic evidence during investigation. So I know that you all are eagerly waiting to listen him. Once again, I heartily welcome you, Dr. Harold DeCosta, sir, and I stop myself over here. Thank you very much. Over to you, Anushka.
Thank you, sir. We feel honored to have with us the Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Harold DeCosta, sir, President of Cybersecurity Corporation and CEO of Intelligent Quotient Security System. Sir, you hardly need any introduction because of your distinguished work in numerous capacities. Dr. Harold sir's company, IQSS, is featured in top 10 cybersecurity companies in the country in matters related to cybersecurity, cyber forensics, and digital evidence. Sir is senior resource person in cyber law, cyber forensics, and digital evidence at various state level judicial academies and at National Judicial Academy. Also, he is international trainer on cyber crime investigation, cyber law, cyber forensics, and digital forensics. Sir has worked on more than 5,000 cases of cybercrime from 7 countries and trained more than 40,000 cops and about 8,500 judicial officers in various facets of cyber forensics, cyber law, digital evidence, and cybercrime investigation. He was a resource person in 24 international conferences and also was a part of Global Cyber Security Summit. Sir had a distinction to train Bangladeshi, Sri Lankan, and Supreme Court, High Court, and District Court judges on cyber law, cyber forensics, and digital evidence organized by National Judicial Academy. Dr. Harold Sir has worked on various cyber cases related to large government enterprises, Bollywood, multinational companies, banks, telecom, education, media, gas subsidy, etc. He has a real time experience in capturing digital evidences of various cybercrime cases related to banking frauds, data theft, software privacy, cyber defamation, social media cyber, intellectual property rights, and cyber terrorism. Also, he was on the panel of Maharashtra Police Academy to develop curriculum and courseware on cybercrime, cyber law, and digital forensics for big corporations in India. Sir has been associated with National Judicial Academy, National Investigation Agency, Maharashtra Police Academy, Goa Police, CID, Center for Police Research, Detective Training School, Judicial Officers Training Institute, Maharashtra Intelligence Academy, and Judicial Academies of Manipur, Tamil Nadu, Bihar, Odisha, and Delhi. Dr. Harold DeCosta sir is also a writer. He is regular writer in leading newspaper and an expert in cybersecurity in various TV channels. He co-authored 15 books in cybersecurity space. I think sir is great inspiration for we students. Sir, I welcome you on behalf of MP Law College, District Legal Services Authority, Aurangabad, Advanced Center on Research Development Training in Cyber Laws and Forensics, National Law School, India University, Bangalore. Now I request Dr. Harold DeCosta sir to enlighten us on the topic collection of electronic evidence during investigation. A question answer session will be held right after the sir's address. So I request all the attendees to put their questions in chat box. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, I thank the college for inviting me for this webinar to talk about to you on the collection of digital evidence. I'm sure that in today's era, the investigation has become difficult, especially because we are talking into an era where there is most of the cyber crimes take place. In fact, just yesterday, I saw one news which said that cybersecurity should be declared as an emergency, should be declared as a national emergency now. And one of the country has now decided, specifically the United States of America, whose many of the government systems have been hacked, information available in college, the District Legal Service Association, for inviting me. And let's start with the presentation. The first and foremost, what I would like to address to you is on facets, which when you talk about the cybercrime, the most important part for us to understand is who owns the internet. But actually, it may not be a rocket-based questions, but it's very important that many of the professionals, many of the people who are using internet, specifically in our country, are not aware of the fact that no one actually owns the internet. The sad part of the story is that in our country, we almost have about 68 crore Indians who are using internet. But if you ask this question, that who owns the internet, I bet you that 99.9% of them would say, we are not aware who owns the internet. We only know how to use the internet. In fact, this question was asked on Kaun Banega Crorepati by Amitabh Bachchan. And the person who was sitting on the hot seat, the contestant, was not able to answer that who owns the internet. This has become very important for us to understand not only who owns the internet, but what are the different types of crimes and how this evidence has to be collected by the law enforcement agencies to ensure that the criminal is being booked and showed the way where he should be there. In a country like India, where we have a population of almost about 135 crores approximately, we almost have 68 crore Indians using internet. Well, last year in 2019, in the month of October, I was a part of the India Mobile Congress, one of the biggest conference to be held in the South Asia. And when I was a part of the conference as a resource, I heard our Honorable IT and the Law Minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, saying that an average Indian spends about 3 hours, 47 minutes on the social media. And this was about more than a year's statistics old. I believe because of this pandemic, the coronavirus, the 3 hours, 47 minutes might have crossed probably 6 hours that we are glued, an average, that I'm talking about the average time. So if you are glued for about 6 hours average time, approximately now on the social media, which means that India is not new as far as the usage of the social media on the internet space. Therefore, it alarms me that how many of them actually know that they could not be victimized or they could not become a victim of cybercrime. In fact, the first 4 months of the pandemic, right from the March to July, I had almost about 750 odd cybercrime cases coming to me. And most of these crimes were related to the financial frauds. Few of them were related to frauds which were related to the financial frauds, to the social media frauds. And a very small quantum of it dealt actually with the business email communication frauds. But then 750 odd crimes in the 4 months of the pandemic gave me an eye-opener that India could become one of these countries in the world where cybercrime could be at the highest pinnacle. So the first thing, who owns the internet? Well, nobody owns the internet. The internet is more of a concept than an actual tangible entity, and it relies on a physical infrastructure that connects networks to other networks. Incidentally, we have almost about more than 120 crore SIM cards in the Indian market, used uniquely by almost about 92 to 95 crore unique Indians. We are the largest user of Facebook in the world. We almost have about 45 crore Indians using WhatsApp. We are the second largest user as far as the emails are concerned in the world. We are the largest user as far as downloading of social networking apps in the world. In all of these statistics, what I reveal to you, either we are number one or number two. Last but not the least, in terms of the internet usage, we are the second largest country after China to be using internet. Well, I believe in the next year or so, we shall be the largest country using the internet. All of these, the influx of technology relates that the high use of technology relates to high number of cyber crimes taking place if the law enforcement agency is not geared up to tackle these issues. Well, what cybercrime is all about? Well, in a very simplest way, when we misuse technologies to do some unlawful activities or illegal activities can be termed as a cybercrime. When we talk about the illegal activities, there is an advent today of the darknet, where most of the crimes now today take place on the darknets. Now, the sites which have been visible on the darknets are those which are not being searched by the Google search engine. And therefore, under this scenario, there are thousands of sites which can be accessed through darknet, where illegal activities like drug trafficking, arms and ammunition selling, credit cards data, debit cards data being sold, all of these information now available on the darknet relates that the information of a common public also can be made available on a public domain or a public media, which then can be misused by the criminals. Well, I'm sure that this 3 days conference or this 3 days seminar, you would have definitely had some experts talking to you about the cybercrime, the types of cybercrime. My just, what I gauged up in the last 15 years of my experience in this field, I've made about, these are the 10 different types of cybercrime, which could be very, very critical in today's scenario. Well, cyber stalking, harassment method over the internet, cyber contraband, buying and selling of illegal items over the internet, cyber trespassing, where remotely accessing a digital device of an individual or a group of people without them knowing that they are under surveillance by a third party or by unauthorized people. Well, cyber laundering, money laundering, internet has become a wire media by which money could be laundered. We have seen during the demonetization time in 2000, the later part of the 2016, that the Bitcoin raised many eyebrows as one of those currency to do some illegal activities as converting the black money to white, so on and so forth. Well, internet is a space where people can be fooled, people can be made victimized, and money is one of those criteria where the greed for that money would instill many people to lose their hard-earned money instead of getting money into their wallet or into their accounts. Cyber vandalism, well, hacking. I'm sure that there are some students also today who are a part of this webinar. Well, many of the students do ask me that we want to do ethical hacking. I always say, don't do ethical hacking, because hacking is an offense. And many of these ethical hacking courses, they don't tell the students that hacking is an offense, and the students then fall victim to the crimes, and later on, they themselves are being accountable for having such type of crimes to be done. Well, during this course of this session, if I get some time, I will share with you some live experiences. To that fact, since for the last 15 years, I have worked very closely assisting the law enforcement agency and also the judicial system of the country by training the judicial officers from all over the country. So my particular deliberation today shall be on live cases and not on some cases which are there on some reference books, so on and so forth. So you talk about cyber vandalism, it basically talks about hacking into a network by unauthorized persons or unauthorized miscreants. Well, cyber slandering, well, that's related to the defamation point of view. Internet today is filled up with a lot of defamatory contents, and with a bit of assault, but of course, with proper application of a mind, the WhatsApp becomes the world's topmost fake university today of promoting so many messages, so many types of informations which are not being pondered upon whether these are true or whether these are untrue. In fact, many of the people today who are using WhatsApp are unaware of the fact that almost about 83% of the messages which are being forwarded through this WhatsApp space are found to have no origin. They are found to be fake. Well, if you ask me a question, then why do the WhatsApp doesn't have a moderation team in place? I think you should have this question asked to yourself, because WhatsApp is a free service. And I'm sure that most of you have not read the terms and conditions or the privacy policy of WhatsApp, therefore keeping you yourself into the darker side. So tomorrow, if any cyber crimes takes place, I would say that before you walk to a police station to lodge a complaint, think 10 times that why you have not read the terms and conditions of any of the social networking sites. Why have you not read the terms and conditions of WhatsApp? And if you read the terms and conditions, I'm sure that you will think 10 times before you start using these apps. My point of view is that I'm not saying that not to use these apps. My point of contention is that when you use these apps, take some time out as a learned people, read the terms and conditions, and then use them. Because if you use them without reading the terms and conditions, you will be liable to get penalized. And if you read the terms and conditions, you will be liable to get penalized. And if you read the terms and conditions, you will be liable to get penalized. And if you read the terms and conditions, you will be liable to get penalized. And
Sorry
if
to
you read the
interrupt you,
terms and
sir.
conditions,
You are not audible. Sir, you are not audible.
Wait.
Yeah.
Sir, disconnect them. Sir will join. Don't worry.
Yeah.
There is a problem of the internet connectivity. Dear participants, sir is joining. There is a little bit problem of the net connectivity. He's joining. Immediately he joined.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Sir, audible. Sir, you are audible.
Audible. You can see my screen?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. We lost that connection in between. Okay. Well,
Again,
information theft or related to the information espionage, so on and so forth. Cyber pornography, but by and far, this is one of those crimes which has been there into our system, wherein almost about 50 to 55% of the cyber crimes today is registered. They are related to the pornography point of view, well, obscene messages which have been transmitted, videos, so on and so forth. Cyber terrorism, well, when internet is used for a good purpose, there are a host of other people who also misuse internet to commit some terrorism activities also. And last but not the least, the cyber fraud. Well, everything is fraud, what I just listed to you, but the cyber fraud, what I have just put up over there as one of the types of cyber crime is related to the financial frauds. Well, I'm sure that today there are more than 90 crore debit cards available in the Indian system, in the Indian ecosystem. But once again, a huge alarm that how many of them really know that their particular cards could be misused. You may have the card with you, a debit card with you, or a credit card with you, but still a cloned card can be prepared, maybe some 10,000 miles far away, and a transaction could be done, say, about 15,000 miles away. And a person who is the registered owner of the debit card, he shall get only a message saying that his card has been misused, notwithstanding the fact that once it comes for an investigation perspective, it becomes extremely difficult for the law enforcement agency to capture the digital footprints, because these particular crimes have taken place from outside India. Then there are a lot of jurisdiction issues. The law enforcement agency then has to get the information from those service providers, which becomes a Herculean task. Just before taking up this session, I had one call coming to me from a lady saying that my Facebook account is hacked. Will the police be able to get my account back? I said, first and foremost, you should have a complaint to be registered at the cyber cell and to the police station where you are residing. Whether the police, whether they'll be able to recover your account or not, that is a part of the investigation. But before you do so, it's very important point of you to know. It's important part for you to know that you cannot just well, I've seen the chat box. I hope my presentation is seen.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So she called me up saying that will the police be in a position to recover my account? I first said that, did you read the terms and conditions of Facebook? It says that your server is placed in US, and the police has to get the information from this service provider. So till the time the police are unable to get this information from the service provider from Facebook, which is outside India, you cannot say anything whether the police will be in a position to recover your account immediately or whether they will take some time. So I said that before you make a complaint, first understand what mistake you have done by creating a profile onto a server which is outside India, and the police have to literally ask information from the service providers. If they get the information, they'll be able to proceed forward. If they don't get the information from the service provider, they're unable to make it. And in that terms, you start criticizing the law enforcement agency that they have not helped you. But first, you should ask a question. You should be blamed. Why did you create an account onto a server which is registered outside India? whose particular data has been posted outside India. So ask a question to yourself, then go to the police, have your matter to be registered, and I'm sure that the police will go all the way out to help you out in not only getting your account back, but also trying to get the person, the hacker who did so. Well, coming back to my theme of the topic, which is on the collection of the digital evidence. These are some of the steps for the cyber investigation, where it is broken up into 10 different facets. Well, the first one is pre-investigation assessment, evaluation of the scene of crime, collection of physical evidences, precaution for collecting digital evidence, collection of digital evidence, forensic duplication, seizure of digital evidence, packaging, labeling, and transportation, the legal procedure after seizure, and getting information from various agencies. Well, these are the facets, or these are the steps for as far as the cyber investigation is being concerned. But then let me also tell you that in today's era, when cyber crimes are being orchestrated and done, well, you don't require a SIM card, you don't require you don't require an email ID for any crime to be orchestrated. Well, there are many instances today where you can get an email ID only for 5 minutes. You can get a virtual SIM card, have a crime to be orchestrated and committed, and these evidences, the SIM card gets in next 5 to 6 minutes, it gets disposable. All the digital evidences are then removed. You have an email ID which you may get only for 5 minutes, and after that 5 minutes, that particular email ID will then never be used by that criminal, and that email ID could be possible, can be assigned to another person. So at the time of investigation, it may happen that the police may try to seek the information from the service provider to whom this email ID belong. But then this email ID may belong to an X person today, but few days before it might have belonged to a Y person. These informations are not stored at the server inside, which gives a very big thumbs up for a criminal to do these crimes without being caught. Well, the pre-investigation assessment, what comes in that? Collection of all necessary information like the profiles of the suspect, location, circumstances, and the computer system. So when you talk about the information as far as the digital evidence is concerned of a criminal who has committed a cyber attack, the important part is that to know about the profile of the suspect. So if there is any offense in which a criminal has made a fake profile of a victim on either of the Instagram, Facebook, or any social networking site of that matter, the profile of the suspect is very important for the law enforcement agency to go ahead. The location from where this particular profile has been uploaded, the circumstances, and also the device through which that this particular profile has been created. The collection should be done by an in-charge cyber cell, that is the investigating officer. Well, the investigating officer for a cyber crime is a police inspector and above. So before 2009, October, the investigating officer was DYSP and above. But then the amendment in the IT Act 2000 has now made the investigating officer as police inspector and above. Just few days before, one of the police officer just called one of my assistant, and he was asking some information from him, and he said that, okay, look, these informations I will give it to the investigating officer. He said, I'm the investigating officer. So my colleague said, you cannot be the investigating officer. Yes, you can collect the information, but then the information can be given only to your boss, a police inspector and above. He was arguing, no, I'm a PSI, I've got all the rights to investigate, but unaware of the fact that a police officer below the level of PI is not the investigating officer. Yes, he can do an inquiry, but cannot be an investigating officer. Analyzing scope of the offense and its possible outcome. So different permutations and combinations could be seen, analyzing how this offense could have been orchestrated. What are the different outcomes? Well, these are the pre-investigation assessment which has to be done. Evaluation of the scene of crime, that is the second part. Well, the crime scene should be evaluated properly before collection of evidence. Digital evidence are very volatile in nature and could be available in number of devices, locations, and formats. Well, very true fact. All types of digital evidences are stored in memories, like the hard disk. They can be stored in the memory card, flash drives, so on and so forth. But these digital evidence which are stored in such type of devices are very volatile. They're very delicate in nature. And therefore, extreme care has to be taken that these particular devices are handled in proper way. The devices mostly are fragile in nature. In fact, I can tell you about one incident which happened in Maharashtra. So there was a CD which was seized by the investigation team. And then during the filing of the charge sheet, the CD also had a part of evidence which was important as far as the matter was related to. But then the concerned person over there who was assisting the investigating officer, what he did that while he was collecting all the documents, papers, he also took the CD and he made a hole in the CD to connect it, to attach it, all the documents associated to it. And that charge sheet was then filed in the court. But then just see what was that particular unawareness costed out in this matter. He made just a hole in that particular CD, attached it to all the documents, and then put it in the court. Well, such type of things do happen. And then in that CD, which contain a lot of incriminating type of evidence, will always give the benefit to the accused, who then could be scot-free. So the digital evidence are very volatile. It should be handled extremely in a very, very careful manner. Evidences like number of computer system, type of connection, either it's a Wi-Fi, Ethernet, personal appliances and computer peripherals should be noted and photographed. Well, I know in today's incidents, we have the the cameras, which don't have the negatives to be stored. Well, in the good olden days, we had those cameras with the rolls and which also had negative copies of those particular photographs to be placed. Well, in today's era, there is nothing which is called as the negative copies which have been stored, which also can raise a doubt in the mind of the court that whether this particular image or this photograph which is presented before the court is a morphed one or whether it is a genuine one. The categories of a cybercrime, well, the investigating team, when they source the location from where the crime has taken place, that location could be a house, it could be an office or a coffee shop of an individual or a company, or it could be a public place. The issue which happens with the law enforcement agency is that if they come to know that this offense is created by a public machine or a public network, then it becomes very difficult to ascertain out that who was the culprit or who was that hacker who committed this crime by going into a public place and doing it. Well, a matter of caution to all, and a suggestion, an honest suggestion to all, and that is, as far as possible, never use any public Wi-Fi. Maybe at the airport, maybe at the railway station, or maybe in your particular nearby locality, because these type of the public Wi-Fis, they need not be 100% secure, and which may result that your data could be compromised to any other person who later on can misuse your information. Well, another word of caution, never, never, never use your Wi-Fi in any of the hotels. Never use it. Well, I keep on traveling, but then during this last few months, my travel has been curtailed to a large extent. But in my last 8 to 10 years of my intense travel, I have never used a Wi-Fi of any of our hotels because none of the hotels have got a Wi-Fi which is a secured one. And tomorrow, if your Wi-Fi is being misused, well, the owners can come on you, because when you go into the person at the reception gives you your user ID as your room number and mostly a password as your surname. And if this is known to any of the criminal who is nearby, who then can just use your particular room number as your login ID and your password as the surname, and in turn he can use your particular Wi-Fi connection allocated to your room, commit a crime, and that particular burden of proof shall be on you to prove that you are not the person who did not use that, who did not commit such type of illegal acts. Well, collection of physical evidences. The identification of collection of potential evidences from cyber scene is very critical, very important. The evidences may include receipts of cyber appliances, left behind diaries, notes, passwords on slip, email IDs, contact numbers, or bank account numbers. I remember in one of the investigation, I was assisting the senior law enforcement agency, and I found that the accused had 97 email IDs. And let me tell you, for all that 97 email IDs, he had 97 different passwords. And remember, he never kept a diary. His mind was such a supersonic mind that he devised an algorithm within himself that how the next password could be for the next email ID which he would create about it. So I think the job of the investigating team is to seek all the email IDs and all the passwords to find out that what type of the crime has been orchestrated using the emails, so on and so forth. Well, bank account number, well, the evidences of a bank account number in any of the financial crimes is very pivotal and very important. And noting and sketching position of various equipments at crime scene. For example, a mouse at the left-hand side of a keyboard may indicate the user being dexterous, so on and so forth. Well, it's a part of the psychology point of view. But then, with a pinch of salt, let me add one more point to it. And that is, at the crime scene, I've seen before, but then this thing have been decreased to a large extent. Well, in the days, say about 4 to 5 years before, the investigating team would collect everything from the crime scene. Means they would take the CPU, they would take the monitor, they would take the keyboard, they would take the mouse pad, they will take the mouse, they will take the UPS, and all they will try to take it and dump to the forensic lab. Well, but let me tell you, it's not the job of the forensic lab to do the collection of evidence. It is the investigating team's responsibility to collect the evidence. The lab acts only as an expert to seek the evidence or to extract the evidence which has been given by the investigating officer to that lab. But then rarely today you find, but still there are some certain cases where in a case which relates to a theft, maybe at a gold shop, well, the investigating team will carry the complete DVR kit, the CCTV kit, and directly dump it to the forensic lab. No need to do that. What you require to do is that you just have to take the extract of the evidence which is there in the DVR, where you can see the face of the suspect or the face of the accused, and only to that evidence has to be extracted, maybe in a pen drive or in a CD, and then there is a certain process to be followed to ensure that once this particular evidence is produced in the court of law, the judge, the judicial officer, then doesn't have any doubt in his mind that this evidence has been fabricated or this evidence has been washed out or whatsoever. Precaution to be taken while collecting digital evidence is the next facet of as far as the cyber evidence collection is concerned. Minor mishandling may corrupt or vanish the evidence. Well, without proper documentation, evidence may not be admissible in the court of law. Well, documentation is a must, very important, very critical. I can tell you in one of the investigation that the investigating officer, sees the hard disk at the crime scene processing and documented in the Panchanama the serial number of the hard disk. And once that hard disk was seized, the reader of that investigating officer, the police inspector, he then sent the hard disk to the forensic lab. Well, when he sent this hard disk to the forensic lab, this the so-called, the serial number of that hard disk had some certain characters like O. For example, it was 162005289A, something like that. Now, for him, he thought that that O is 0. And when he sent that particular, sent that hard disk to the forensic lab for an expert opinion, so instead of writing that OO, what he did across was that he sent it directly as, he directly wrote it as 00 instead of writing OO. And when the lab got this particular hard disk at their end, they found that the hard disk what they have received and the hard disk what was the serial number which was noted down by the reader for extracting the evidence had a difference in that. Let me tell you, this may look very minor, but in the court of law, these are very important facets which has to be properly documented, properly done before it has been sent to the forensic lab for an expert opinion. Well, special skills are required for leveling and preserving of digital evidence. So packaging, labeling, transportation is equally important. It should not happen that the the device has been properly seized, but while it is being preserved or while it has been transported to the forensic lab or to the any other investigation team, proper care should be taken that the evidence is properly preserved in that, and that shall not get tarnished or it shall not get to be mishandled. Chain of custody should be prepared to identify who handled the device.
Sir, you are not audible.
Yeah, now I'm audible.
Ah, yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, again there is a hand.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think, yeah. So a chain of custody should be prepared to identify who handled the evidence, and you should be an expert having a domain knowledge. It's not that a college-going student is then made to come and help the law enforcement agencies. At least he or she should be a professor who is having an expertise in that subject, who then can help out. Other than that, now the police have got their own team who are the who can be an expert in extracting the evidence and having the chain of custody to be noted. One word of caution, and that is when the evidences is been seized by the police, at some time the evidences is been seized and a copy of that.
Sir, kindly share the screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think there was a drop in the net at your end, which once again, finally, okay, fine. I hope the screen can be seen.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So the evidence, once it has been seized by the police, on some certain case, the police constable or the havaldar gives a section 65B certificate. If that particular evidence has been extracted in a CD or in a pen drive, will never do that, because specifically from the accused side, you can seize the device and send it to the forensic lab, because the investigating team, the havaldar or the constable, is not an expert, even though he may be very competent. But then for the court of law to accept that the evidence has been properly collected, the expert opinion of an impartial party is very, very critical and very important. I was just having a session for the Maharashtra police in the month of October. And then I found out that there were some havaldars, some constables, there were some head constables who are then extracting the evidence from the CCTV or from the hard disk, and they themselves are giving a section 65B certificate, well, saying that they themselves are an expert onto this part. Well, the clause of section 65B says that first point itself says that you should be a legal owner of that device from where it has been extracted, which itself gets nullified, and therefore such type of evidence which has been collected will always have a sense of controversy once the matter is in the court. A proper documentation like the digital evidence form should be done separately for every device. So if there are, say, about 5 devices which have been seized from the crime scene processing, so there will be 5 different chain of custody forms would be there to make a point that all of these particular device which have been seized they are not been mismatched or they have been not been clocked together as one. Serial number of devices should be properly documented. Very critical, very important. There have been instances that there may be some typo errors. As I said, O can be made as 0, 0 can be made as O. So a lot of mind has to be applied to check what is that particular character, whether it is a character or whether it is a numeric, and then it should be properly documented. Well, collection of digital evidence. Well, from three different types of systems. One is the switched off system, the switched on system, and the cell phone. So if there is any type of a digital evidence which has been extracted from these three different scenarios. So first is switched off. So at the crime scene processing, if the investigating team wants to seize the hard disk or the memory card whatsoever, and if it is there in a switched off system, so disconnect all the network connections, allow printers to finish printing, if any, label and photograph all the components, that's very critical. Ask users for passwords, operating system details of other users, and offsite data storage. And not necessary that the data will be there only at that place where the police are seizing the memory or the hard disk. This particular data today can be available also on the cloud, or there's a high amount of chance that the criminal or the accused might have deleted all the data at its end, but may keep a copy of that data on the cloud. I remember in one of the investigation when I was assisting the income tax department, I found that the guy who was the network administrator or the IT administrator, so before the device could be seized, he formatted the hard disk, not knowing that any device which has been formatted, 100% data could be recovered. But what I mean to say is that it's not necessary that the evidential based data would be available only at the crime scene processing. It could be available also on the cloud. So the details related to the cloud server, where it is hosted, which folder the data has been stored, getting the login and the password credentials to access the cloud becomes of paramount importance. The suspected drive should be connected using wire block device only for investigation. When you talk about the wire block device, these are basically the write blockers. So to ensure that the evidence which has been collected, or the hard disk or any of the memory which has been seized, so the hard disk or any of the type of the memory cards which have been seized, it's very important that a hash value has to be calculated or generated. And these hash values are basically some sort of a digital locker, ensures that the integrity of the evidence which has been collected at the crime scene processing is authentic. In many of the cases, it has been found that the hash value of that particular device is not being calculated. Therefore, there is always a doubt which is created in the mind of the court, and the defense lawyers adds more onto it to make a point that this particular evidence is completely washed up. This evidence is not of my client, and therefore under these circumstances, the benefit can go to the other party. Well, I'm not over here to say that who is right, who is wrong, because it is the court at the end of the day who decides who is wrong and who is right. But the investigating team has to take proper care, proper concern to ensure that whatever they seize, not only they properly documented, but ensure that a hash value is being generated, and that hash value is then documented in the Panchanama, and then that particular hard disk shall be taken, or any of the memory device to be taken, properly packed, packaged, and before it is sent to the forensic lab, prepare a questionnaire. Without a questionnaire, it becomes extremely difficult for the lab to find out what is required from this particular device. Well, today the situation is slightly better. I'm not saying that it is very better, slightly better. I've seen some of the investigating officers, now they ask the forensic lab, please give your opinion based on the related crime. Otherwise, it may happen that the lab may extract all type of data, Word documents, Excel, images, may extend all, but that may not be a concern to you as far as your matter is there. So if you are very specific that this is what you want the lab to assist you in finding it out, whether these type of the evidence are found in that. So if you're very specific about your case, I'm sure that it will be easier for the lab also to extract the evidence find out what is there, and then give a report. If there is a switched on system, so if the investigating team goes on to a place at a crime scene where they find that the systems are all connected together, all connected, all in a working condition. So the investigating team has to take proper care that they should disconnect all network connection, label and photograph all components, ask users for passwords, so on and so forth, password, operating system, and use live forensic tools to collect the digital evidence present in the RAM. Let me tell you, I said disconnect all network connections. I did not say disconnect that particular laptop or that desktop on which the operations are going on. Under this scenario, if that particular laptop or the so-called the desktop in which some work is going on, if that system itself is disconnected, then you'll not be able to extract the evidence which is there in the RAM, and that evidence could be very critical for the matter to come to a logical conclusion. If there is any evidence to be collected from the cell phone, so if the device is switched off, if the mobile is switched off, do not turn it on and put it on the flight mode. Photograph, label the device and the screen display. Use the Faraday bags for storing of evidence to ensure that no electromagnetic waves can interfere with the mobile's electromagnetic waves, and the images or the information could be diminished. Keep the device charged, record every activity with photograph and time. Forensic duplications. Well, forensic duplication, the data should be copied accurately without making any change to it. It can be done by following ways: logical backup, bitstream imaging, write blocker. These are the ways by which the original device could be cloned. Well, any of the device which has been cloned or duplicated, that particular copy can be kept by the investigating team. They may use this particular data. They may use the information which they find in a clone disk just for their local investigations. It may be important for them to make the questionnaire to question the accused, to question the suspect. But what particular evidence has been extracted to a clone copy may not stand in the court of law. The simple reason is that because the court will always insist on, and it is a very good habit to get the opinion from the lab, because that happens under the Section 79 of the Information Technology Act. They are the electronic examiner lab from whom the information comes is admissible, and later on it can be appreciated. But a word of caution. When I'm talking about the Section 79 of the Information Technology Act, let me also tell you that any of the forensic labs in whichever part of our country would be, they would be only electronic examiner lab only and only if they are being if they are made to be an electronic examiner lab, they require the permission to be taken from MITI, M-I-E-T-Y, the Ministry of Information and Electronics Technology Department, which comes under the Ministry of Information Technology, the central government of India. Only this agency can certify a lab as an electronic examiner lab. So in your state, if there is any of these cyber forensic labs, and if they are not been certified by MITI, then the question will always be there in the mind of the defense lawyer that this piece of information or this report which has come from the forensic lab is not an electronic examiner lab, and therefore will have an argument done in the court that this evidence which is given by the forensic lab need not be taken on record simply because it is coming from a lab which is not been authenticated by MITI as an electronic examiner lab. Well, before I started addressing to you this session, there are only 4 states in our country where these labs are electronic examiner lab as governed by MITI, and those particular 4 states are Gujarat, well, it is Telangana, it is Karnataka, and Delhi. So these labs, they are being authorized as an electronic examiner lab as governed by MITI, the Ministry of Information and Technology Department. Well, most of the cyber forensics lab have applied for an electronic examiner lab. Then maybe the documents are still under verification, or there may be some certain work which may be going on to check the authenticity, so on and so forth. but it's very important to ensure that the lab which gives the report is an electronic examiner lab as governed by MITI. So there's a logical backup. You have the bit stream. Bit stream is a bit by bit, single block by block of data is then being copied into the is being copied into a clone device or in a duplicate or on a duplicate hard disk. Well, I would not say a duplicate, because if I use a duplicate, it always raises a doubt in the mind of the court. Oh, it is a duplicate. The most right, authentic name, what can be given of a image of the original hard disk, which is made into another hard disk, is a cloned. It's a cloned one, where what is there in the original hard disk, the same is copied into the another hard disk. So a backup copy is being made, which later on can be used by the investigating team for their local investigations. Well, write blocker, it is a hardware or a software tool which forbids computer writing on a storage media. I remember in 2015 and 2016 and some part of 2017, I was teaching all the APPs in the state of Maharashtra, the assistant public prosecutors. And while I was teaching them, I showed them what is a write blocker. I showed them it is a device through which you can have a cloned copy of an original data can be made. And when I showed that write blocker, many of these assistant public prosecutors asked me that what is the significance of this write blocker over the softwares by which today the cloned copy is being made or a backup copy is being made of the original device. I said there's one significant advantage what you can have on a write blocker over a software which is used to prepare a cloned device or a cloned image, is that a write blocker will always ensure that whenever it makes a cloned copy from the original device, all that particular data which has been copied from the original device is in the read mode. It forbids any type of a writing to be done from the source device into the another backup device. And I'm very happy to say that at least in Maharashtra, I find in many of the cases when the cloned image is being made of the original device, the write blocker is being used. One more significance of the write blocker, and for that matter, the softwares also, but write blocker, I'm more inclined towards it because it is by and far the most authentic way to ensure that the evidence which is there in the original device is not been tampered or it is not being modified. The another important significance of a write blocker, and that is the write blocker also generates a hash value to the original device which has been seized. Now, this particular hash value is a alphanumeric code, and that alphanumeric code is generated through a mathematical calculation or a mathematical algorithm which is there in that particular write blocker itself. So there's a program which is inbuilt in that write blocker device. And what it does is that it ensures that the hash value which has been generated at the time of collecting that particular seized device ensures that the evidence or the data which is there in that device has not been modified, has not been changed, and the same particular data which is there in that device is then sent to the forensic lab. So the write blocker not only makes a cloned copy or a backup copy, it also generates a hash value, which means that something like a locker to ensure that the data which is there in this device is not been modified or changed. For example, if you see in a tender document, unless and until it is digitally signed, that particular tender document is termed as invalid. Similarly, in the case of any of the data or any of the hard disk or a memory, when it has been seized by the law enforcement agency, to ensure that it is authentic in nature without a hash value that generated, that particular evidence can always be contested that it could be fake, so on and so forth. Procedure of digital evidence. Well, what all it comes? Calculating hash value, creating a digital footprint, image or a clone of the same, and calculating hash value of the forensic image. So these are the three most vital steps every investigating team has to be followed. Well, what are the precautions to be done in this? The professional approach and guidelines should be followed by IO to maintain reliability, integrity, and legal relevance of the evidence. Write blocker should be used to avoid change in time stampings, because at the time when the hash value is being generated, there is also the date and time in which in which time it is been calculated. And that's very important. I can tell you about the case which happened in Maharashtra. Well, the investigating team, the investigating officer, was not much learned as far as the cybercrime was concerned. So at the crime scene processing, the hard disk was seized. Well, it was documented in the Panchanama. No hash value was being generated, and that hard disk was then taken to the police station. Well, the constable, his constable was a learned guy who had done his some course in computer and also was a diploma holder as in computer subject. So when that hard disk was taken to the police station, he said to the investigating officer, to his boss, he said that, sir, we will just try to find out before sending it to the forensic lab, we'll just find out what is there in this. And so he connected the hard disk to another machine and therefore started, looking in for what all evidence he could find out from this. His intention could be okay, his intention could be right, but the timestamp as when that hard disk was seized and when the hard disk later on was connected in the police station, the timestamp changed. The last access date and time of that hard disk changed, which gave the benefit to the accused. So the proper care should be taken that once the hard disk has been seized or once any memory device has been seized, the hash value has been generated, the time when it was being generated, all that once noted in the Panchanama, that hard disk or that device has to be packed and no particular connection to that device should be made, either offline or online. Permanent sterile new physical media should be used. So if there is any type of a cloned image to be made, well, you can use a new physical media to make a clone or a backup. But remember, whenever you are having the original device which has been seized from the crime scene processing, you have to send one more spare hard disk to the forensic lab, because the forensic lab would not do any type of the forensic from the original device. What it will do is that it will make a cloned copy into the spare hard disk, which has to be sent by the investigating team. At instances, it has also been seen that the hard disk or the another spare hard disk, which has been sent by the law enforcement team, that hard disk has to be taken from the money from the government system. It should be bought. Well, many a time it has been seen that either of the party, they buy the hard disk and then they give that particular, they give that bill in the name of the police station, which is a wrong practice. It should be bought from the system, from the government system. That particular hard disk has to be procured and then it has to be sent to the forensic lab for the extraction of the evidence from the original hard disk and a report then to be sought from the forensic lab. New media should be fireproof and tamper-proof. If already used hard disk is used, existing data should be wiped off. Well, always better to send a new hard disk rather than sending an old hard disk, even though it has been wiped. After imaging data into media, it should be marked with unique exhibit number related to case which is computed through hash algorithm. Well, the hash algorithm is a software based by which the hash value is being calculated. It's a mathematical based calculation, which you or me will not be in a position to say that what particular values shall be generated by that particular device to be assigned to that disk and to the image which is or the data which is there in that device. This number should be mentioned in the Panchanama, that is the hash value. Hash value of copied image and the original data should be exactly the same. The seizure memo should be prepared and digital evidence collected should be preserved in anti-static cover to ensure that no electromagnetic waves are in any contact with that device which has been seized, where the data could be diminished or it could be lost. When packaging, labeling and transportation, the collected evidence should be numbered and labeled properly for future use. A tag should be attached to evidence which will display all the details about the evidence. For packaging of evidence, proper material of suitable size should be used. Good quality evidence envelopes, Faraday bags should be used instead of common plastic or gunny bags. Well, those common plastic or the gunny bags should be avoided. It should not be used at all. You should use Faraday bags once again to ensure that it ensures that it's anti-static cover, which ensures that the data which is there in that original device, it doesn't get tampered through. It's fireproof. So that's why the Faraday bags is very important. Along with the bubble wrapper bags. Well, the bubble wrapper bags are those, or the bubble wrapper plastics are those, which normally when you go to an electronic shop, you'll see some plastic with some bubbles. And those particular, those type of a plastic should be used to package or to have this particular, the hard disk or the memory card to be completely packed in that, so that even if it falls down, the chances of that particular device getting broken is less.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, but you are not audible.
Well, I hope I'm connected.
Yes, sir, you are connected.
Yeah, because the host are okay, fine, okay. Well, the legal procedure after seizure. Well, after the seizure part is been done, documentation and transportation of digital evidence, permission from court should be obtained to keep evidence in the custody. Ensure that the original evidence related to the case are returned to the owner. Ensure that no original evidence related to case are returned to owner. Even if court instructs to return the original device or the original evidence, try to impress upon that only an authentically imaged copy of evidence is provided to owner. See, the original hard disk also every time has to be preserved by the investigating. Well, I have to just share my screen. I think I've lost that particular.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's come now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So even if the court instructs to return the original evidence, try to impress that only an authentically imaged copy of evidence is provided to the owner and not the original hard disk or the original device is given to the
Sir, you are not audible.
Well, I think once I got disconnected. Okay, so the username on whose particular name this internet connect was assigned, the telephone number in the case of DSL, CDMA, 3G, 4G, and dial-up. That means on whose name this internet connection was being addressed to, and the telephone number. So suppose if it is if it is done through a network where there is a cable-based network where there is a telephone number assigned to that internet connection, then the telephone number details also. Personal details like name, email ID, address, etc. mentioned in the CAFA form, that is a customer associated forms, where all the customer related information is there in the form, because it's important that whenever any internet connection is been assigned to any user, there is a form in which the user has to give all the details about a proper KYC has to be done and ensure that all the details which has been given is authentic in nature. A personal visit by that ISP to that place where that internet connection is given has to be understood, documented. Day-wise activity, that is when and how long the internet connections are used. Well, these informations are there with the ISPs or with the telecom service providers, and the physical address of the IP address. Well, most of these particular type of the information has to be sought by the law enforcement agency from the telecom service provider or from the ISP. The ISP and the telecom service provider are bound to keep the information on their server under the provision of the Information Technology Act, also under the section 67C. The email service provider. Well, in the case of an email service provider, if there is any email credentials of the accused has to be known. So the username, user activity, date and time of logged in and logged out, when he was active, etc., has to be seeked from the email service provider. The details of all incoming and outgoing emails along with the mail stored in the draft folder. Well, these informations can be sought from by the law enforcement agency from the service provider, unless and until the service provider says that because of privacy issues, they are not able to provide this information to the law enforcement team or the law enforcement agencies. I can tell you one of the email service provider is Proton, Proton. Well, there's also an element which was said that Vijay Mallya also used a Proton mails, which are basically having their servers in Switzerland. And this is one of those email service provider which doesn't part out any information of the user which is stored in their server. But I also had this particular case with me wherein I had one matter which was there under the Bandra police jurisdiction in Mumbai, and wherein the victim, the complainant, was receiving some threatening emails, coming from Proton Mail. Well, when this information, the police tried to seek from Proton Mail because the email ID of the accused was registered on Proton Mail. Well, it's almost more than a year, but Proton Mail has still not provided the information to the investigating officer, simply by saying that under the privacy policies, we are bound to not to give any information of our user who are registered onto our server. I think this is basically a policy making decision to be taken by the government and all the associated agencies to ensure that the people, they don't register themselves on such type of servers where the information then seeking or collecting from this service provider becomes impossible. Well, registered details, IP address from where the email ID is being accessed, well, the IP address, the location from where the email was being sent or from where the email was being accessed. And registered detail like IP address, date and time, and other services availed. These are the information which the investigating officer can take from the email service provider. Gathering information from various agencies. Well, if the accused is using a mobile phone, and the information related to the mobile phone can be taken from the mobile service provider. So what information the investigating team or the investigating officer has to seek from the mobile service provider? The customer acquisition forms, well, where all the personal detail like name and addresses are being stored, where calling number, caller number, time, type of call. This is basically the CDR, the call detail records, where the details of all the calls which have been made, received, SMS which have been sent, received, are stored in this CDR. And roaming to other cities, tower location, and tower data. So these are the information which the investigating team then has to seek from the mobile service provider. So if there is any type of a fraud which has been orchestrated by any social networking sites, maybe Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or whatever it is. So under this point of view, what all information the law enforcement agency then has to seek from the social networking sites? The first is the fake profile, the username, the personal details updated in the profile. I'm very much sure that while a profile has been created, there is some KYC which the social networking sites or app they do. They ask for the email ID and they ask also for the mobile number. But let me tell you, in today's instances, the email ID and a mobile number can be bought only for 5 minutes. All are virtual in nature. And therefore, under these very sophisticated related crimes, where the virtual email IDs and the virtual SIM numbers are used, it becomes very difficult. But notwithstanding that in almost 98% of the cases, such type of things have not been done. But in 2% of the cases, the law enforcement agency now have to gear up that under these circumstances, if a virtual SIM card or a virtual email has been created only for, say, a couple of minutes just to commit the crime, then getting this information from the social networking sites becomes difficult. The IP address from where the profile has been accessed or from where the profile has been created. User activity, that is date and time of logged in and the duration of the active sessions, that when all this particular profile was been logged in, from which place, from which locations. Friends and groups with which the user is associated, where all the friend list and all the groups where the accused is been associated, and the email ID is updated in the personal information. So these are the information which the investigating officer has to then see from the social networking side. Well, I believe that that was my end of my presentation. Well, it went up slightly more than an hour. Well, it went up to about 70 minutes instead of the usual 60 minutes. Well, I tried my level best to tell you about what are the types of the information which has to be taken, how to ensure that the evidence which has been collected from the crime scene processing is not tampered by generating the hash value. And I also discussed with you in this session that, you know, the procedure the procedure as far as extracting the evidence
हाँ
is
सर
concerned, mostly through a write blocker,
हेलो
and also gave you a little
हाँ
influx
सर बोलो ओ
on
बैठिए
the
बैठिए
types
प्लीज
of
प्लीज
cyber crimes, then what are the different types of cyber crimes, giving you at least about one or two fillers on each of these cyber crimes. And lastly, but not the least, of telling you that there is no owner of internet. Well, internet is a combination of many small computers systems connected together to one big server that is called as a mother, that you and me in a very simplistic terms tell as internet. Last but not the least, before I start taking your questions, maybe for 5 or minutes or so, I will also seek from you any of the questions which you feel that during a part of our particular learning today, which you feel that it's associated with that, then surely those questions are welcome, and I will try my level best to reply to you in the most simplistic way to address your query. So thank you very much. And now I'm ready to take your questions if there are any.
Thank
थैंक
you.
यू सर
Yeah.
From the depth of my heart, I thank you, sir, for sharing with us your findings and words of wisdom. Now I request Professor Dinesh Kolte, sir, to conduct question answer session. Over to you, sir.
थैंक यू अनुष्का सर देयर इज अ क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम देवीलाल सुंदेशा फ्रॉम राजस्थान वर्ल्ड बैंक की ओर से बांग्लादेश को फंड सेंड किया गया था इलेक्ट्रॉनिक माध्यम से, लेकिन कोरियन और रशियन हीरो ने उसे बीच में ही उड़ा लिया, लूट लिया जब ट्रांजैक्शन ऑन पाथ था। जब उनकी आईपी एड्रेस को ट्रेस करे तो उन्होंने नेशन वाइड डमी लोकेशन ऑफ आईपी एड्रेस शो हुआ। अब इस इन्वेस्टिगेशन में एविडेंस जनरेशन किस प्रकार किया जा सकता है? Over to you, sir. Sir, disconnect.
If the IP address itself is proxy, then I
Yes.
think it becomes very difficult. It becomes difficult for the investigating team then to find out that from where it has been sourced. There has to be more from an investigating perspective. I believe that this question should be more from the policy framework, which the decision makers has to have to apply their mind. If there is something called as a proxy IP which has been used, or a proxy server which has been used by the accused, wherein he is hiding his particular location from where this transaction has been committed, then option number one could be to have a particular tracing that IP by breaking that IP from which particular server it was being orchestrated. But let me tell you, there is no hard and fast rule which says that even if you break the IP into small locations from where it has been orchestrated, we can come to know the locations. Point number two is that I just said to you sometime before that such type of issues where a proxy IP is used or a proxy server is used, there has to be some technical and a legal framework where such type of a proxy IP, when it has been used, a watch has to be kept, it has to be monitored, that why it is being used for. Today, most of the organizations use proxy IP or a proxy server to ensure that from where they are communicating is not known to the other party. But then this particular benefit is also taken by the accused or by the criminal. So one way, while breaking the IP into small pieces to know the location, but no hard and fast rule that you will be able to get to know from where it was been orchestrated. And number two, there has to be a legal and a technical framework policy that such type of proxy IPs, how they has to be investigated, has to be known. As of now, there is no fixed rule as far as the tracking the proxy IP is concerned. Yes.
Sir, next question. Kolte sir.
Well, if I just see the chat box, how to determine the jurisdiction of the court in cyber crimes, I believe that you can see section 75 of the Information Technology Act 2000, where it will throw light onto that. Your question shall be answered under section 75 of the Information Technology Act 2000.
Sir,
As far as the jurisdiction, as per
Thank
the
you, sir.
jurisdiction part is concerned. Well, Usama, well, I bet, Professor Kolte, if I just go in the chat and I will see those questions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because it becomes easier. Okay.
Sir, another question is there from Dr. Prashant Desai, from ex-professor from National School, Bangalore. What is the difference between digital evidence, electronic evidence, and computer evidence?
Yeah, in fact, I will, if I just go on with the chats, and then I think I'll go serially, if you don't mind it. Because there's one very interesting question which is put by Usama, why there is no ban on darknet?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, is it really difficult to trace IP address of cyber criminals who commit cyber crime through darknet? Well, I will say, Usama, your question is very, very, very important and very prevalent. Why there is no ban on darknet? Well, I'll tell you that there is no owner of internet. Well, you and me are the owner of internet. We should know what to be used and what not to be used. Is it really difficult to trace the IP address? Yes, it's very difficult, because when you use a darknet, you use some certain browsers by which the location from where this crime has been orchestrated is not known. So that's the answer for your question. And as far as your darknet part is concerned, just one line, if I add onto it, sites which are not been accessed, or which are not been cached, or which are not been searched by Google, these particular sites will then be searched by using some darknet browsers. One of them is Tor, T-O-R, through which the darknet sites then can be visualized, or it could be seen across. Tracking IP address, well, difficult, extremely difficult in today's modern world. But I believe that in the days to come, there will be a way that how such type of IP also can be tracked. Well, Dr. Prashant has said, well, what is the difference between digital evidence, electronic evidence, and computer evidence? Well, it is something which is a commemoration of all. When you talk about significantly point of view, when you talk about any digital evidence, well, it can go on to the digital network, wherein you'll find that computers are connected from one end to another end. When you talk about electronic evidence need not be only from a computer. It can be from any of the gadgets associated to the electronic communication. And when you talk about a computer evidence, it means that the evidence which has been extracted from a desktop. That's how you can make it. But your question is a little tricky one, to a fact saying that everything at the end of the day will form as a digital evidence itself.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Dr. Preeti has put up a question. How far bank app like Yono is safe? Dr. Preeta, I'm sorry. Dr. Preeta, you're going to put me in some serious trouble if SBI comes to know that if I told you something about this Yono app. Well, in a joking way, I'm telling you about this. Well, to that extent, I will tell you, any app, maybe a banking app or any social networking app, to make it safe or not safe is in your hands. It is not in anybody's hand. I'm in the field of the cybersecurity, but let me openly admit it. I don't do any banking transactions online. Let me openly admit it. The reason is because the whole of the digital space is so scary that there is very less of information available along with the law enforcement agencies, and I would not blame them. The reason is that because most of these servers where the data is being stored and data to be seeked is there on a server which is outside India. So if you ask me about the app like Yona, is it safe? I would suggest you, please read the terms and conditions, please read the privacy policy. And when you're making any banking transactions, limit yourself. So whenever you have any of your account being created, immediately go on to that banking site and set up a limit that your day-to-day transactions will not be more than 10,000 rupees. You can do this. If you do this, the minimize of any type of a crime, even if it takes place, will be less and not more. And as for the security or the safe point of view, let me also tell you, at least till today, before 10 o'clock, before 11 o'clock, before I got online with you all, there is no agency which can say or which has been nominated by the government to check the authenticity of all of these apps and say that these apps are secure. Probably there requires to be a nodal agency to check for each of these apps that they are secure, and then the confidence will be there in the mind of the people to use it. Well, I think there is a question from Meher.
Meherkar from Dhule.
Yes, very nice question. You want to be clear that who has to give certificate regarding emails? Well, when you talk about a certificate regarding emails, the certificate can be given by either of these persons. It can be given by the person on whose name the email ID is being registered. If it is a individual based emails, there is another type of emails which is corporate based emails, where from the company. So within one company's network, there may be some 10 different email IDs which are registered on one server. So under that point of view, the IT administrator of that particular network can give the certificate. So it depends on whether it is a individual emails, personal emails, or whether it is a company-based email. Company-based email, then the IT administrator can give a certificate. But if it is an individual-based email, then the person on whose name the email is registered with can give us the certificate. Okay, Prajakta Bhagwat, can you tell us examples of person who will provide certificate under Section 65B of the Indian Evidence Act? I'm sure yesterday you had a session, and yesterday you had a very learned advocate also. I'm sure that this might have been covered up. So I will not touch upon from that point, but then since you are asked this question from the admissibility point of view, well, there are 4 parameters under the Section 65B. Well, you get these 4 parameters. If they have been fulfilled, then that person can give the certificate. To ensure that in 1 or 2 particular ways, if I want you to address your question, under Section 65B, if it is a complainant can himself or herself have a Section 65B issued. But if there is any evidence or any particular device of the accused which has been seized, wherein I just gave an example to you sometime before, that the constables and the havaldars, they themselves have a Section 65B, been signed along with the evidence which has been seized. No way. If there is any evidence which has to be extracted from the accused device, then have this device to be seized, send it to the forensic lab. Forensic lab will never issue a Section 65B because they will extract the evidence from the original device. So never have a Section 65B, which has to be given by the police itself. It has to be extracted by the forensic lab. And forensic lab, believe me, never gives Section 65B because they will always extract the evidence from the original device and then they will send it to the concerned investigation team. Well, what is the effect of dark web in the cyber? Oh, I got it.
Society and human society.
Yeah, well, I think I'm not from the human rights. Well, I'll not be able to answer this this particular part.
Sir, Professor Vilas Chauhan from Parul University, Baroda.
Yeah, I saw that question. Well, 1 minute. Well.
Sir,
what is the effect of dark web in the cyber society and human society? Professor Vilas Chauhan, I'm there with you. There will be a huge negative impact. And I think what question you raised was very important. But the important fact is that the effect of dark web, well, a psychologist would be a best person to answer this question to you. But my particular answer to this in one simple line is that the effect of dark web is completely bleak, dark, as far as the human part is concerned, and so is the cyber society as a whole. Okay.
I hope.
Well,
another question is there.
Well, Advocate Satya Narayana also is going to put me in some sort of a trouble in the joking way. How you support Digital India in spite of the largest literate, especially in rural India? Well, Advocate Satya Narayana, I will just tell you that the concept according of Digital India, according to me, is very good. The way the government has come up with this Digital India is extremely superb, no doubt about it. But my only fear is that the implementation as far as this digital India still has to be, still there's a lot of things to be done across, because we don't have the data privacy policy in place. And most of the offenses which are there in the IT Act 2000 are bailable in nature. When the last amendment was in 2008, it's almost 12 years now that there is no amendment. I think the amendment has to be done maybe immediately. I'm sure that there are many learned persons in this group who will take a leaf out of this and bring it to the agency that amendment in this law is very important. And number two, Digital India, as I said to you, very good concept. Implementation, I think, requires a lot of things to be done. People have to be taught how they could be secure. There are a lot of digital literacy, which is very, very important. We have Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, well, very important. But then today we require more than Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we require Swachh Internet Abhiyan. Because today, most of the time, we are glued into our office, we are glued at home, we rarely walk on the roads. It's not that we don't walk on the roads or we don't go on the roads. We do go. But the amenity on what we go is less. And most of the time, we are glued across onto a mobile phone or into of the digital gadgets. I believe the cyber hygiene practices is very, very important to ensure that digital India is the morale or the way, the reason for what the digital India was bought. If that has to be satisfied, cyber hygiene, Swachh Bharat Internet, or Swachh Internet Abhiyan is very critical and very important. Well, Professor Kolte, I don't think there are any questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. The questions, I haven't taken any questions from the YouTube. Others are there in YouTube because they will, it will take whole day to answer the questions. Thank you, sir.
Gratitude is completion of thankfulness. I call upon Professor Dinesh Kolte, sir, coordinator of National Webinar, to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anushka. Good afternoon to one and all present over here. Honorable Dr. Harold DeCosta, sir. Respected participants. It is my proud privilege to have such an eminent persons among us as research persons. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Honorable Dr. Harold DeCosta, sir, for being with us virtually and enlightening us with his insightful ideas on these topics, that is collection of electronic evidence during investigation. Thank you so much, sir. Considering the privacy matter, sir has today only dealt with the basic things to you. And sir is one of the respected, revered resource persons he works for Maharashtra Police. And wherever there is a problem, sir is always there. I know him very well. He is one of the most respected resource persons. Today, only sir has taught us regarding concerning the privacy matter, basic things. Second thing, I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Abhay Jadhav, sir, who delivered the welcome address. Special thanks to Principal Dr. Semro, sir. And I express my sincere thanks to all the participants throughout India, regarding judges, advocates, law teachers, principals, head of departments of the various faculties, students. And special thanks goes to the technical support which has been given Sri Shubham Jaiswal and Anushka Pandey, who anchored today's program. Thank you. Once again, I thanks all who have assisted to organize this program. And again, a special thank to Honorable Dr. Harold DeCosta, sir. In spite of his busy schedule, he enlightened us on this important topic. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Tomorrow there will be 4th day of session on emerging trends in cyber crimes. Shri Sachin Dediya, sir, cyber investigator, and Dr. A. Nagaratna, ma'am, chief coordinator, ACRDTCFF, National Law School, India University, Bangalore, will conduct sessions on topic cyber security laws during COVID-19 and cyber crimes against women and children respectively. I request all the attendees to be present for tomorrow's webinar. Thank you.
At 11:30. Tomorrow we are going to prepone the session. Tomorrow there will be 2 sessions. Thank you, sir. With the permissions of the Dr. Errol Costa, we will conclude the session, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants are requested to, we have already sent the feedback link on the YouTube and in chat box. Kindly fill up. I will not share it in the WhatsApp group and on Telegram channel. Thank you.